Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, the better half of the AJ Bros team, Drew, for our first official video. For this video, I will be talking about the Trump administration's increases in military budget and how that will affect everyone else. Just as a disclaimer and a trigger warning, I am a Democrat, so if you voted for or support Trump and don't want to hear the truth about him and his policies, then you should be prepared to be triggered. Now back to what I was saying. Donald Trump and his administration are planning to make increases to military budget. And I'm not saying I don't like the military, but you need money to make increases. And as Republicans who are still here know, we don't have a lot of money here. So, government programs are going to experience cuts. These cuts are mainly going to be aimed at the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which will experience a 24% cut, and the foreign aid programs, which will experience a 14% cut. If Trump cuts funding to the EPA, he will have an even bigger group of people rioting against him, because according to a 2016 Gallup poll, 73% of Americans believe that the environment is a problem that we should worry about a great deal or a fair amount. This means that a lot of Americans want clean air to breathe, clean water for recreation and drinking, and natural resources that are used in healthy ways for a future. However, due to these funding cuts, regulations and the ability to follow up on these regulations and protections to the environment will be at risk. And if you are part of the 27% of people who aren't concerned about the environment or just don't care, then maybe you are concerned about people starving in the world. Trump's suggested funding cuts to foreign aid programs may seem like an okay thing, except it is coming at a time when 20 million people in 4 different African nations are in famine and nearing starvation. And that kind of instability in a world not only leaves children and families at the risk of death, but also leaves the governments vulnerable to corruption and disaster. Most of foreign aid money is going to health and economic development programs, which can help make countries stronger. These cuts are mainly going to be aimed at the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which will have its funding cut by 24%, and foreign aid programs, which will have a 14% funding cut. The rest of the money goes to defense aid, which supports countries like Israel, which Trump has vowed to help, so he won't cut any money. The rest of the money goes to defense aid, which supports countries like Israel, which Trump has vowed to help, so we know he won't cut any funding to them. But then the only other big cuts that he might make are ones to Iraq, who is one of the only groups in the Middle East who is helping us fight ISIS and keep boots off ground by training and supplying their own men, and is a smarter use of our money in the long term, rather than risking our own military personnel. Supplying Iraq is like the old parable: give a man a fish and he eats for a day, but teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime. Investments in the defense organizations of other countries is investments in our future, because they are helping our country be safer in the long run. Those are the only major foreign aid items under defense and security aid that would be worth cutting. But then Trump would be breaking promises to support Israel. Now you might be thinking, cutting some of Iraq's funding might be okay, but then we'd be forced to send in our own troops again to make up for the loss of Iraqi forces to fight ISIS. If Trump sends in more troops to the Middle East, because he would be forced to, that may end up with more people rioting against him and his administration. In 2015, 51% of people thought invading the Middle East was a bad decision, which is different from when originally polled in 2003, when 75% of people approved of the invasion, and 61% of people also believed that pulling out the troops was a good decision. If we invade again, which we may be forced to by not supporting Iraqi troops, then it may not be backed by the public and will lead to more deaths of service people. Now, if you're wondering, why does this affect me? And why should I care? If Trump cuts environmental funding, then we will all be impacted, because we won't be working to protect the earth where everyone lives. Our water and air will become more polluted. Now, foreign aid might not really affect you personally. It affects other people in other countries that just need help getting on their feet. Now, if you're Christian or just a human, you should believe in making the world a better place, and foreign aid helps that. by giving medical and economical aid during the inevitable famines, breakouts of diseases, and other disasters that will happen and tend to destabilize countries, making the world more insecure. Finally, if Trump is able to add funding to the military, we might get more protection from our enemies, like ISIS, but it might also inspire more people to join that cause due to collateral damage. Hurt people tend to hurt others. We have seen this in recent years as people have joined militant groups for revenge. If you want to check out a movie about this idea of collateral damage, you should check out this movie called Eye in the Sky. It's about this joint air strike force of Britain, Kenya, and America, where the Americans are controlling a drone, which is originally used for just aerial recon, and the British are coordinating the attack. And the Kenyan military plans to raid a house, but then the person moves into the enemy territory, and so then the Kenyans are unable to attack them. And so then the Americans have to launch their drone to actually fire a missile. And it's really interesting, and you should just check it out.
It's an intense movie. Watch it.
For the few of you who actually are watching this video, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.